Well, welcome. I'm Peter DeRosa, and this is my associate, Ken Lamantia. And you're on From Main Street to Your Street. And we talk about all things financial. And today, we're going to change some things up a little bit. We've been talking about the history of the stock market, the history of insurance solutions. And today, we're just going to do a little bit of free form. So, Ken, go ahead and kick us off this morning.
Well, one of the things that is really exciting that people haven't had or haven't been exposed to is why and how we use these products and where they came from, which is something that more people should understand. Different kinds of insurance companies. Are they stock companies? Are they owned by their employees? Are the products we used, are they true guarantees? Are the annuities that we use, what are the better? What are the different kinds of annuities and why do you use them in different solutions? Why do you stagger investments with insurance? These are things that me and Pete are going to talk about today.
So Ken, let's open that up a little bit. So why does the different types of insurance companies, mutual companies, stock companies, why does that make a difference? Fraternal organizations. Go ahead and unpack that a little bit more for us.
Well, let's start with the stock companies. When you own any business and you have shareholders, you answer to the shareholders. Your number one financial um, fiduciary responsibility is to the shareholders, not to the people that buy the insurance and the investments in that company. Now you take other companies that are employee owned companies. Well, guess what? Those people have a stake on how the company is run, the customer service. Why is that different? Well, when it's a stock company, it's just a job. When you're employee owned, you have a financial stake in that company and you want to make that company really shine. And there is a real difference. There are companies that started out as just regular, simply owned companies or, family owned businesses. And then they went to stock companies. And the big blues, we call them, Mutual of Omaha at the time, New York Life, Mass Mutual, and a few others. They are mutual companies. They are very, very conservative. We call them the big blues. They are the trendsetters. They're the big guys on the blocks for many years. Ultra conservative. Then you have the stock companies. You've seen Snoopy used in some companies. I'm trying to avoid using some names. Um, that became a stock company. That changed the way that company has performed over the years. It's had its ups and downs. Is it a good company? Yeah, but it's not what it was 30 years ago before they became a stock company. So we have to understand the basis. It also influences a lot of their product. The big blues are ultra conservative. They do not use, well, just into this year or the year before, they don't use index products. They use traditional life insurance, which is called whole life. They don't use indexed annuities. They use variable annuities, which now they have come a long way. They really have. But they had their issues. They're expensive. You know, their sales force. Years ago, when I started with New York Life 23 years ago, you worked for the company, and in the first 3 years, you got a paycheck every week while you were in training. And we had 3 years of training. That no longer exists. And Peter, why don't you tell us why that's so important? The difference we see now in agents.
Well, it's investing in knowledge, and when when agents and a workforce is has limited experience, number one, and number two, they have limited exposure, we find that their service arenas are all also very limited. They only know how to do 10 things. They don't know how to do all the things that the insurance industry allows them to do. And so we wind up with some areas of the market sector being saturated with a large number of agents that just don't know what they're doing. And then we have other arenas where it's really gone down. The service is limited and far between because there's just not any new agents being taught how to serve those particular niche markets that are out there. So the education has really made a difference, and a visible difference in the last 20 years, as we had so many agents that had that former training go into retirement, and then we have a workforce where nobody is investing in the knowledge base of these up and coming agents, and very few of them had the privilege and opportunities like yourself and myself to be able to work with the last vestiges of agents and managers who understood the value of training and the value of experience.
Well, one of the great things I'm proud about our company, and we don't really talk about our company, and I think we should touch on it a little bit. Solaris was a dream of the DeRosa family, and I got blessed enough to come with us. And basically, our company is a giant mentorship program. We take pride on teaching agents the right way. Is it simple? No. Is it frustrating? Yeah, every single day. But we're producing agents who are educated, who do the right thing. It's more important to take care of the client instead of just sales. And we're going to touch on that. Let's touch on that a little bit, Peter. You know, right now, 40% of the people who buy annuities buy the wrong annuity the first time. And people are going to say, well, that's a lot. That can't be true. Well, guess what? It is. And the reason that is because they're buying annuities from salesmen instead of financial professionals. All they care about is the commission. Me and Peter spend half of our time fixing problems that other people have created.
Yes, yes, we do.
And it's rewarding now, but it's also difficult.
Well, it's frustrating because in an industry where we're being slapped left and right with new compliance regulations and continuing education hoops that we've got to jump through, we kind of understand why they're requiring all this, because we have a very illiterate workforce when it comes to what is appropriate, what meets the fiduciary requirements. And so many people, and I would say the responsibility, a lot of it falls back onto the lower level activities that go on an agency level and that happen at the IMO and FMO levels, because so many of them, they're not investing in the agents, just like you spoke of with the companies that were pouring time and resources into them. And we're spending all this time fixing, like Ken said, a lot of the problems, but we're fixing it by educating the agents as what are the appropriate goals, what's the appropriate time horizon, what are the appropriate products for the different risk tolerances, what should be the focus here, and really connecting back to the roots of, we can't help everybody. We can't. There is going to be a limited amount of people that are suitable for our services, our solutions, and for our skill sets. And there are people that exist outside of that sphere. And I think for most agents, recognizing that you can't help everybody, but really our focus is come down to two questions. Number one, can we help them as an agent and as a financial advisor and financial professional? Can we help our clients? And number two, do they want our help? Because there's a lot of people that we can help, but really the solutions we're bringing aren't an appropriate fit because they really don't want those solutions. They want something very different. And when they've got a baked and sold solution that it's not really what they want, that's where we run into complications and where things are mishandled because people are not listening.
Well, one of the things I like to touch on, Peter, why don't you tell us? See, we're going to touch on this a little bit down later on in the broadcast today, but what people don't understand is insurance agents don't sell insurance directly from insurance companies anymore. There's one company left that you can do that I know of. There's a couple, actually. There's probably two or three. But Peter, why don't you tell us the difference, what these field marketing organizations, IMO and FMO, explain that, because people in the general public have no idea what we're talking about. Would you mind touching?
That is very true. And half the agents don't either. Um, so right now, well, let's go back here. So it used to be that the agents were captured to a specific insurance company and only able to sell the products that were available from that carrier. So they contracted with the carrier. Like Ken said, there have been a lot of changes. And there's been a major shift starting in the mid 80s when everybody was getting rid of their pension plans. They created the independent insurance agent or the independent financial advisor. And what that did was it created a huge market of agents that could sell multiple carriers. But here's the problem with that. Even though they could sell those multiple carriers, the agent has to produce so much in production with each carrier in order to achieve a reasonable compensation level. We'll just put it that way. And so, especially as an independent, we do not have marketing support. We're not giving leads from the companies. We have to pay for all the marketing ourselves, which makes up about 30% of the cost of an independent agent. So, in order for agents to achieve a reasonable compensation levels, they created these middlemen. They're known as FMOs, or forward marketing organizations. And they would act as an aggregator of all of the production of the various agents with various companies, and then go to those companies and say, okay, we got $5 million of this, $10 million of this, that we can guarantee will produce it year after year for you. And so they would give those high contracts to those companies based on their production, the FMOs. And then the FMOs would divvy out a smaller portion to the agents. Well, the scheme kind of developed a little further to where there's basically, I'm going to lay out the hierarchy. So you have your NMOs, or National Marketing Organizations, and right underneath them, you're going to have a branch. Okay, and this is why this gets confusing. You're going to have forward marketing organizations and independent marketing organizations. The independent marketing organizations are the ones that also do marketing. Okay. The forward marketing operations, they're pretty much like dinosaurs. They do the same thing over and over again. They offer good contracts. Their focus is very different. They don't dabble in the marketing. So as an agent, I encourage everybody to look for not just an FMO, but really more of an IMO, because you want to find the groups that are actually engaged in marketing and in training. Those are the two areas that are most important for the agents. You want to work with somebody that is actively training you on systems that they have the marketing to go hand in glove with, so that you're working with people who are actually producing in the field. You're not working with not to disparage anybody, but you're not working with a bunch of college graduates who got a job at FMO because they have a college degree, but they've never sold anything in their life. So many in the industry, that's what we get fed. Oh, this is a good idea. Go try that. Oh, that's a great idea. Try that. Oh, use this marketing company. I heard it's really successful. It's it's free advice, but it's bad advice. It's not from on the ground agents who are producing and know what works and what doesn't. And so we go from the NMO to the FMO IMO, and then that splits out. And then you have your BGAs, which is an equivalent, or broker general agencies. and then you'll have your general agencies, and then you'll have your agents. So that's the tier. So once again, NMO, FMO, IMO is about the same. Then your BGAs, GAs, and your agents. And that's the hierarchy of the insurance world. Are there hybrids? Are there, can people skip steps? Yes. But that's the general hierarchy of how this all works. You want to add anything to that, Ken?
Yeah, actually, I got a lot to add to that. One of the things that we have to understand, the degradation of the insurance industry is because of that. When I worked for New York Life, I was a captive agent, which meant I can only sell their products. I was allowed to sell some health insurance products and some other things, but that was it. I sell New York Life products. I was trained properly. My training program was 3 years. And now what happened is greed came in. Everything Peter said was designed to maximize the industry, but what always destroys everything like that? It's greed. Now, this guy, the MMO, the FMO, the IMO, everybody gets a piece. And the agent makes the least amount of money now. Why is that a bad thing? Well, this is why. Agents go from different IMOs, FMOs, backwards and forwards, chasing money. They have no training. We use these things called leads. What are leads? They're information about people who might be good prospects. So IMOs and FMOs use them as a hook to bring in the agents to sell their products. The problem is, and me and Peter are very well familiar with this, is I spend 30% of my day teaching people how to do an appointment. The first appointment, the proper way. Sounds ridiculous, but it isn't. When people get licensed now, there is no training. They pass the test and they go to these IMOs and FMOs and they basically say, buy these leads and sell this to this people. I'm going to tell you a dirty little secret, and I want you to try this. I want you to ask insurance agents or investment people what an annuity is. Just ask that simple question. I guarantee you no answer will be the same if you ask 5 people. The truth of the matter is, it's just a contract between you and the insurance company. Does it have a lot of features? Yes. Has it evolved? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, that's all it is. Why is that so important? Me and Peter use life insurance to build wealth for people. You can say, what? Life insurance? Well, if you understand life insurance is nothing but a tax law, basically, and a contract between you and an insurance company. It allows us to use uninterrupted compounded interest, which Peter's favorite words are the 8th wonder of the world, to build wealth for people. But if you ask insurance agents, they sell insurance for the death benefit. Peter and I, yes, life insurance is pure protection. Don't get me wrong. But it is the greatest accumulation vehicle that there is. And we use it to build wealth in many different formats. When I met Peter, he was the only person I've met in the last 15 years who thought like I did and understood life insurance like I did. And that's how we train our agents the right way. And
well, on that, Ken, let's stop for a second here and let's talk about what wealthy families do. Right? When we talk about insurance, why is it that the wealthy families own 70% of all the insurance that's issued is between the wealthy families and corporate entities? Why is it that the general public, the 90 plus percent of the population has less than 30% of actual insurance in force. Why is that, Ken?
Well, they figured something out a long time ago. If you can make the perfect product, and this is what I explain to my clients when I speak to them, if you can make the perfect client product, what would it look like? Well, it would have tax deferred growth, right? It would have protecting your principal. You can access the money anytime you want without a penalty. All the money comes out tax free if it's designed properly. Now there are some ways where people screw it up, and they do, but generally it builds wealth with uninterrupted compounded interest. And the worst it can ever have is a 0 year. Well, what does that mean, Ken? Well, that means it goes up. The worst you can have is a lateral move, a 0 year, but then it goes back up again. You have zero losses. Now, you combine that with uninterrupted compounded interest, and the wealthy have figured out it is the greatest tax strategy ever designed. It's the safest way to grow money. And guess what? It does 10 other things that me and Peter are going to talk about at another time.
Well, not to tip you off track here, but I would like to speak of that just so that people can understand, where this industry came from, right? Where did the dollars come from to create these big organizations, these big insurance companies? Where's the real money at? And one of the main reasons is risk mitigation, right? That's the contractual, the unilateral, the one-sided aspect of insurance that wealthy individuals and corporations, municipalities, banks, they all want risk mitigation. And some people say, how can you do that with life insurance? And so some people call it the waterfall method, which we will talk about at another time. But it's the certainty that the death benefit will pay out. It's the certainty that the cash value will grow on that account and it can't be leveraged. There's dollars to pay out if something bad happens, even out of the cash value of the contract. If they had to borrow the money out of that contract, it's going to be there because of the requirements of liquidity that have been put in place for these companies. And so it's that factor, the risk mitigation that's in place, that really has made it the backbone contract of preferred wealthy individuals and organizations for the last 100 years. Would you agree with that?
It's basically what Peter said. You can't lose money. That's you mitigating your risk. It's the greatest hedge that ever was created.
So getting back to the insurance agents and going forward. So we obviously we talked about the reasons why a lot of them are struggling with compensation, and it's the hierarchical structure that's kind of in place right now. But let's just say it's also education. That's the biggest limiting factor, right? Is that they are not willing to invest in themselves to understand how to improve their situation and the opportunities that exist outside of the normal, you know, vital expense policy or just a term, level term contract or uh, some of the aspects of, let's just say, an immediate income annuity, right? There are so many other products and solutions that are available. But once again, it comes down to education and learning how to position those. Ken, as an agent, what do you look for in a company to partner with and a company to represent and a solution to bring to the table? What is it that you look for?
I'm sorry, we had a little technical difficulty there. We both faded out for a little bit.
Okay. Did you? So, what was the last thing you heard?
So I think we about 30 seconds ago.
I'm sorry. So, what I was
Okay.
asking you,
Basically, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, no, what I was asking you, Ken, was what is the determining factor for you for which companies you'll represent and which groups you're going to work with when it comes as an insurance agent. What are you looking for, so that so that the consumer and the agents alike can be aware of important factors. What are those important factors to you?
Well, the first thing we got to talk about is ratings. Let's be honest. The higher the rating a company, the more secure they are. But that rating system is kind of a misnomer too, because what Peter brought something up. You have to understand something. Insurance companies are the only companies that are they have a ratio of up to 1.5% that they are protected by. And that is something really important. That's why Microsoft or IBM or NVIDIA are not A-rated companies, because they have debt. But that's not the only factors. That's one factor, and that's an important factor when you're dealing with somebody. But it's also consistency. You know, Coming out with the latest product is great, and they do evolve, and that's good. But having consistency is really important too. For me, for my clients, I want to see consistent returns in annuities. I want to see higher caps. And me and Peter are going to go into that another day. Um, but I want what's best for my client. Do we make money doing that? Absolutely. That's what we do for a living. But putting that all aside, Peter and I just don't sell life insurance from every insurance company. We have preferred companies that we use. And we know that our clients are going to be taken care of. That is the job of a financial professional. And if you don't mind, I'd like to delve into that just a little bit, go off on a little bit.
Absolutely. Go for it, Ken.
I have been blessed to work in both worlds. I worked in Wall Street. I started in Wall Street in 1997 in New York City. I worked in the toughest place that there is to start, Wall Street. I was a stockbroker, I was an investment banker, and I learned the business, but I also got to see all the shady stuff that went on in the world. Then I came down south, and 23 years ago, I started with New York Life, and I had a 3-year training program. I had the best instructor that ever was. His name was Brian Van Blaricom. But that being all said, I've learned that how to use both of those industries together. What am I trying to say? What is the job of an insurance agent? What is the job of a financial professional? Well, a financial professional, if you're selling securities, there's something called the Know Your Client rule. And basically that rule says your only job is to do what's best for the client. Unfortunately, this rule is violated every damn day because of people who are in our industry are more into it than for the money than anything else. But what is the job of a financial professional? If he's a fiduciary, his number one responsibility is your financial well-being. But that's not all that he's supposed to do. He's got to make sure that, yes, you are in the right investment products, but you should have an investment retirement strategy. Probably nobody's ever heard of that because you know what? That's not important to brokers anymore. They want to keep your money in the market as long as they can. What else should they talk to you about? Advanced tax planning. What does that mean, Ken? Well, if all your money is in qualified plans and 10 years from now, the rate that you pay on your taxes, your tax rate goes up to 60%. Oh, that'll never happen. Well, guess what? We had tax rates as high as 90 at one time, 70s. Early on after the war, we had some tax rates that were 70%. So a financial professional, a stockbroker, we call them. I call them stock jocks because that's basically what they are. Their job is to give you a complete financial portfolio. That means advanced tax planning, trust and wills, retirement exits. You don't keep your money in the market when you're 65 years old. You should be more shifted into fixed products. Now, as an insurance agent, what is your job? Well, when guys sell life, here's another thing I'm going to go into real quick, and I'm sorry going off on these tangents. There are only a couple of different kinds of life insurance. You hear final expense, you hear mortgage insurance. And guess what? One is just whole life insurance, and the other is just term insurance with living benefits. But the job of a life insurance salesman is to do a complete fact finder to find out how much money your family will need in your demise, not just to sell a $50,000 policy to make money. He has to do that fact finder to figure out how much money if the main breadwinner, husband or wife, whoever it may be, passes, you got to think 20 years ahead. What happens if they have 4-year-old kids? These kids got to go to school. They got to pay off their house. Now you have one parent. What's the chance of them working full time and raising a family by themselves? This is the job of a life insurance professional. And that's something me and Peter take pride in teaching people about.
So you mean we're to be life assurance agents? We're to assure that the life that they're living doesn't go away.
Absolutely. Yeah, you couldn't put that any better. I've never heard that term before, believe it or not.
So I appreciate that a lot, Ken. Listen, the focus today is just we're talking about a couple of different things on financials, talking about insurance agents and companies that we work with, and Ken really hit on a very important factor, which is not all products are created equal. And when we sit down and we review them, we take pride in making sure that the solutions we bring are the very best solutions that we can find. We are product or company atheists with our practice. We don't believe that there's one company, one solution that beats everybody out. We literally will shop and research before we present to any client to make sure that what we're bringing to the table is the very best solution that we can offer. And I really appreciate that about Ken and about all of our agents. Those who've been with us for a short while, those who've been with us a long time, they understand this. And I can happily say this. In the last 10 years, we've had a lot of agents come back to us. We've had a lot of agents that years ago worked with us, saw us, met us, and then went a different direction, variety of reasons. But you know what? They're back, Ken. And they're back to work with us again because they remember two things: our honesty and integrity, and how we take care of them. That we make sure the clients are first, and that these agents are taken care of, number two. And that's why they're back working with us. And to me, I couldn't ask for a better testimony or witness to the quality of the services that we're providing. And there's so many people, there's so many stories we could start to unpack. And I would like you to give a couple stories of how did that life assurance play out in the lives of your clients and people's lives that you literally, you saw the difference in delivering those checks and the difference of being able to activate those benefits or turning on that income. I would like to take just a couple minutes here, probably 10, 15 minutes, to just go over a couple of stories so people can understand, why do we do this? Why do we get up in the morning and I'm going to sell life insurance? Let's put some color in the picture here as far as what has this done for your clients and the people that you serve?
Well, my first death benefit claim was a 42-year-old man, had his own business. He was a carpenter. He was in Bluffton, South Carolina. Him and his wife were really nice people. And we sat down, and he actually called me, and he wanted to buy life insurance. He says, I need $100,000 life insurance, and I need, I want to cover my family. We have a young family. And I sat down with him and I says, his name was Tom. I'm not all I'm going to say. His name was Tom. Tom was a really good guy, but he was building a business and he was young. And it's expensive to live in Bluffton, South Carolina. And I said, Tom, you need at least $1 million worth of life insurance just to cover the basics. And we went back and forth because Tom had some issues too, that he had some health issues. And because of, I'm not going to say what they are, and they weren't bad. They were congenital. There's some things that he, had. And it was a little expensive for him at the time. But I told him how important it was. And he purchased the insurance. I got to know him and his wife. Me and my wife, Mitzi, had a networking group and they became part of it. And we weren't friends, but we were, let's say, business associates that actually socialized together sometime. 2 years later, I get a call from his wife. Tom got a heart attack and crashed into a tree and he passed away. His wife, they owed money for the business, the equipment, they owed money for the house. But believe it or not, worst of all, he had told some of his family that he purchased this big life insurance policy. And some of Tom's family members were there, and they weren't there for his wife's best interest. She called me up crying. She called me up at 6 o'clock. I'll never forget this. 6 o'clock in the morning. I jumped in the shower. I didn't even get dressed. I was wearing a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. It was 97 degrees. It was in August. I'll never forget this. I drove over there as fast as I could. I sat down with her. I said, I'm sorry. She cried. We talked. I said, you're going to be okay. I'm going to make sure that you are taken care of. And you're not going to run out of money. And I'm going to show you how you're going to do this. It was good because her mother was there. His father, Tom's father, was there. But later on, when I came, and in those days with New York Life, they would actually give the agent the check to bring it to him. It was different those days. I came with the check in my hand, and I said, you're not doing anything with this money. You're not making any decisions for 1 year. We are going to put this money in a safe place where nobody can get to it. Someone in Tom's family had this idea that part of that money belonged to them. Can you believe that? They just lost their husband, father. I am from New York City. I have that side of me. I promised her that I would take care of her. We got all them people off our back. I took some of that money. We paid off her home against most people's. No, you don't want to pay off the home. I said, sweetie, pay off your home. We put some money in the bank account. We put some money in a variable annuity because that's all I had at the time that I knew of. And we bought her life insurance. But we also got a will for her. Because guess what? Tom didn't have a will, which made things a little difficult. But that was one of the stories. I am still friends with that person. I know her children. Her children are my clients. I visit her. Me and Mitzi take her out for pizza at a place called New York Pizza every time we go there. That was my first death claim. I'm proud of the way I handled it. But I learned a lot of lessons. Now, Peter, I'm sure you have a few that you like to talk about.
I do. I just wanted to ask one more question. How long ago was that?
21 years ago.
So, as a professional, you're taking care of a promise made 20 years ago, Ken. That's integrity. You're still taking care, you're still involved in a relationship with the kids. That's the kind of character and integrity that we want to see back in this industry and with all the professionals that we're working with. So I appreciate hearing that story. It's making me tear up. It's like, taking care of people for 20 years. That's what we're here to do. That's the profession that we're signing on is to be those financial professionals, to provide those services to your beneficiaries, to the next generation if needs be. That's why we're here. And talking about, for me, there's a couple of different situations that come to mind, but one of the sweet ones that is special to me, had a client. We went out to just went out there to sell a final expense policy. Wound up uncovering a whole lot more and doing retirement planning. The guy was a trucker. We built a whole plan of action for him and his wife, and we had implemented everything. We were 11 months into the contracts, and he had a massive heart attack driving behind a semi truck. And thankfully, he was able to get the truck to the side of the road before he passed away. But that was the end of him. And we got a call, and we went over there a couple days later, and his wife was so appreciative to all the things that we had just done for them, because he wasn't a healthy guy, but we had found the solutions. Before that, we were talking about maybe $5,000 to $10,000 of coverage. We actually wound up getting this guy, between the total combination of everything we had, $150,000 worth of coverage for the same price as what they were going to pay for $5,000. And that made a huge difference in this lady's life. It took care of her for the next 7 years. Took care of every need that she had until it was time where she physically could not, and she had to move to go be near her kids. But all of the retirement plans, everything that we put in place we had built in. Well, what if something happens to you? How are you going to take care of the wife? And we were able to put all those pieces in place. And I'll tell you, the sweet part was when we visited them. They have a little farmstead, right? So we went out and we were talking about stuff, and I got a green thumb, right? So I love to grow stuff. So they had a pomegranate tree out back, and they had they couldn't get the pomegranate tree and the pear tree to fruit. They were just like, we just can't do it. And I said, well, you've got this Japanese loquat, a Japanese plum tree right next to them. I was like, if you cut that tree down, they will bloom. And they didn't believe me. And then finally, the husband did. He cut down the tree. And this was the sweetest thing that Janae's like, my husband just talked about how impressed he was that as soon as he cut down that tree, literally 3 months later, the other one started to bloom. And he always wanted to thank you because he planted those trees. 15 years, no fruit off of them. And then some insurance agent comes by and tells him to cut down, the other tree, and he gets fruit out of his labors. And it was just a sweet story to me because that guy remembered that. He remembered me because I showed him something, both on a financial level, but also investing in things that were important to him. And so, we become deeply involved in our clients' lives because we are looking out for their best interest. And I'm proud to say that yes, we are those people.
Well, I got one more story. This is kind of a sad story. I was working for a company. I got a lead, and I worked, and this guy was in Florida, and he worked his whole life. His name was Mr. Jerry. He worked his whole life. He worked for a power company. This man was the kindest Vietnam vet, tough guy, sniper, but the sweetest man you ever want to meet. He got in touch with me through a lead from actually an old client. And I went to go visit him. Now, he lived in a country, Florida, not too far from horses. And I met Mr. Jerry, and he says to me, I like everything that you say, but I need something from you. I need you to come here and visit me. I'm not going to you. I said, well, Mr. Jerry, that's a good thing because I travel between Georgia and Florida to see my family all the time. And you just happened to be on the route. It took me 4 months of visiting him before he even purchased. He retired with $670,000, which is a lot of money for a man like that. He sat down with me, and this is the God's honest truth. He says, I want you to put this into something that will give me income that will for the rest of my life, but more important, that will take care of my wife. I says, I have that. And I explained what it was. Mr. Jerry worked his whole life. He's the kindest man. He was a friend. I used to take trips and pick up the phone with me and him. He used to talk on the phone. Just nothing about business, just stuff we got done. I loved this guy. He was more than a friend. Mr. Jerry worked his whole life, survived Vietnam, retired. 3 months later, gets brain cancer. He passed away 1 year after he retired. On his deathbed, he asked me, soldier to soldier, I need you to take care of my wife for the rest of your, as long as you can. I kept that promise. Her name is Miss Debbie. Miss Debbie is not the easiest person in the world to deal with. I love her. She's a good person, but she tries me. But I gave him my word. I will take care of her and his entire family. And I have never, ever shirked my responsibility. Why am I telling you this? It's not about me. This story is not about me. This is about when you start working in this business, there's two kinds of people. There's people like Peter, and there's people that just sell product to make money. And unfortunately, it's a 90-10 balance now, and not in a good way. So when you meet that guy that really cares, and you come across that person that really takes the time to visit with you, one of the things I'm really proud of, I'm 61 years old. I will be very shortly. I go to people's houses still. I visit businesses. I talk to people, my clients, all the time. Could I make way more money just selling product? Yeah, absolutely. But I found a home here. I found a home with Peter's family, the DeRosas. And we have made up our mind. We're going to change the industry back to the way it used to be. I might not live to see it, but Peter and his brother will. They're going to change it back. This is what honor and integrity looks like. And I know this has nothing to do with business, but it does. Before you invest money, your life savings with somebody, find out who they are. Do your homework. Ask him for referrals from other people. If you're going to give 300,000 or 500,000, that 30 years of your life's work to a person you never met before, you better be damn sure that he's a good person. Make him work for it.
That's right.
Peter, go ahead.
No, we're agents ourselves. We're out there. But we pull back the curtain a little bit. So I hope you can see the heart of Ken, and you can hear my heart in that we have a heart to serve. And that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. I take pride in every opportunity that I have to pray with every one of my clients. I really do. To me, that's very important. Um, we're doing the very best that we can. And I know we've kind of gone some different directions with today's broadcast and with all that we're talking about, but we're shooting from the heart today, and trying to talk about what is it like to be an agent, where's the direction of the future, what is the vision that we're hopefully casting, and the renaissance that we're hopefully starting in the industry. We want to bring back an honorable position, to the insurance industry and to agents as a whole that we're here to serve. We're here to be a benefit to our clients. And the different solutions that we bring, they have different. We could go on and on about clients. We really could. I'm trying not to start on two of them, but talking about their situations. But the deal is, look, the day to day life happens. We're trying to find ways to protect and to assure that our clients' lives are not going to be. Sometimes we call it a black swan event, an unpredictable event. That's a life changing event. But that's where these contracts that are put in place that have, with companies that have been around for hundreds of years or 100 years or more, they have the capacity to deliver. And that's so important to add certainty back in when a time of great change or upheaval happens in your life. That's the benefit of the contracts that we bring to the table. When all else is failing, you've got something, and that's why a certain company kind of prides himself as a rock, right? You want to be that rock in people's lives. There's a reason for that, folks. There's a reason for that messaging because it's true. So, Ken, what would you like to close out on? What topic?
There's something I'd like to touch on real quick, and then we can close out. What's the saddest part of our business, Peter? People come to us when it's too late.
I was thinking about compliance, but okay.
People come to us after they bought the wrong annuity. They
Hmm.
come to us before they want to buy life insurance, but it's too expensive because they had a stroke or a heart attack. Or they want to protect their mother who has to go in a nursing home and their assets weren't put away in a trust. There's a 5-year look back. They want to buy insurance their whole life and it's too late and the mother or the father passes away. And how many people have heard, let's pass the hat around? Peter and I and his family, our whole being is to protect people from that. Do we make money at what we do? Yeah, we do. Do we make good money? Yeah, we do. But at the same time, we change people's lives. You know what I say? I send kids to school. I make sure people retire and don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming in. They're not worried about living off of Social Security. Those are what makes it so good because Peter and I, for every good case I can tell you about, and he could, how many times people come to us and they lost $600,000 in the market. And you know what? I want to help them, but I can't because the Lord has blessed me with a lot of things, but a magic wand isn't one of them.
Well, that
And
goes back to, like I said earlier, that we have to understand our limits and we can't help everybody. We want to, but we honestly can't. Um, that's such an important message. Thank you, Ken, for bringing that out. Before we go today, I just wanted to bring up that tomorrow, Ken, how many miles are you driving tomorrow?
me and my wife are getting up early in the morning and we are driving 235 miles one way to meet with one of my young agents who she is absolutely amazing. And she's a good Christian woman. She's a good mom. And I'm taking her to see 6 businesses in one day. And then me and my wife are getting in the car and driving another 2.5 hours to go visit with my dad in Claremont. And then Sunday, me and my wife have to get up and drive 4.5 hours to get home.
So you're a dedicated professional on the level of taking care of clients for the last 20 years, and you're dedicated to helping our team of representatives and advisors that work with us to where you're willing to drive, hundreds of miles to go help them out of your way to help them. And I think that in itself, if people understand the dedication in this industry, you will find some real gems, some real characters in this industry that they will take the time to invest in you. They will take the time to invest in you, whether you're the client, the consumer, or the agent. And it's important to recognize those people. It's important to make them a part of your trusted advisor circle, because these people have a vested interest in you. If Ken's working and taking care of you and he's driving 200 miles just to come see you, I'm telling you, that is a trusted advisor. Um, you're not getting paid tomorrow, right, Ken?
No, I make absolutely no money for tomorrow. In
There we
fact, it's
go.
costing me lunch and dinner. On top of that.
But that's the point, though. You are providing service first. People experience your services. They experience your character, your integrity, before there's any compensation that is showered on you. It will all be based off of your performance, whether or not you do a good job and you are the financial professional that I know you will be. And that's really the biggest difference between the insurance professionals and, in many cases, those who are not insurance professionals. You will find a lot who, you know, they're they will make returns whether or not your portfolio performs. They will be taken care of just because of activities, and that is a not disparaging them, but there is a lot to this. We have to be um, we have to be on our toes with who we're representing and what we're representing. And I'm happy for the team that we have here. I'm always excited about new opportunities working with new agents. Listen, we've got other videos that we've done. We got more videos we're going to do, but we want to open up this mystery of who and what are insurance agents, what are our lives like, and who are we really serving. So as we unpack the mystery of Main Street, Wall Street, and everywhere else, and bring it to your street, we want people to understand who we are, that we're very real, very down to earth. We're not out there trying to take advantage of our clients on any level. We're trying to provide the very best services within the scope of our licenses and professionally authorized uh, access. So, Ken, what do you want to finish out on?
I want to ask you a question before we go.
Go for
Why
it.
did you do this, Peter?
Why do I do this? It's a dangerous question, Ken. I do this. I work in the insurance industry because I believe despite all the other passions in my life and things that I want to be doing, I found that I'm gifted in this industry. My mind, my abilities from living it, breathing it, growing up in it, I'm good at it. And I want to use those talents, those natural abilities that are there, to be able to take care of my family and also to provide benefits and services for those that I come into contact with. I most absolutely, positively could dream of other things I'd like to be doing. I love to farm. I love to grow things. I really do. But let's be honest, that's a little harder to make a living doing that. It's not impossible, but it's a little harder. And right now, my skill sets and the opportunities that I've had and experiences that I've been taught by, there's not a lot of agents like we talked about before that have had that same series. So I need to take this wealth of knowledge and experience I have and be able to pass that on to the next generation, to other agents, so they can taste a little bit of that and understand how to impact the lives of their clients. And that's really what I feel is a mission, to help train up and educate other agents from all the experiences that I've had.
Well, that does my heart good, because when there comes a time, hey, I'm 61. How many years I got left doing this? But I know there's guys like Peter out there, and I aligned that, and that's going to be part of my legacy. Him. I chose this very carefully. I just didn't. This is my last hurrah. I know that. But I want you to see who he is. You all can read about me because I'm an old man and I got this and I've done that. But my best years are pretty much behind me, and I'm working on. Yeah, I'm going to still make a difference in the next 9 or 10 years, but then I want to enjoy my life with my wife. And I know Peter and his brother and the other people that we have in the company, are going to make that happen. And when I do hang up my driving gloves, as they say, I know it's going to be taken care of. And I want you to focus on next time you meet with somebody like that. Meet with somebody who cares about people, who has the knowledge. I think it was about time to wrap this up because in our world, it's 8 o'clock.
Ken, thank you for your time. Thank you for your dedication. And thank you for showing up tonight and having this conversation with us.
All right. You all have a good night, folks. Have a blessed night.